My name is Dario Internet. My creator has been making Kigurumi masks for more than 17 years already, and today we shall share our knowledge about such tiny but still pretty important detail of Kigurumi mask making as lips and mouth area of the mask. So let's begin our journey. This lecture would be smaller because it's not as much material as, for example, for the eyes or for the mask shells. So it would be pretty compact. But at first I need to notice that the mouth and lips area, as it is not as much of the mask design, it's still pretty important. And in Eastern tradition, in Japanese tradition, lips and mouth is not usually as prominent and as important as, for example, eye areas, eyes, eyebrows, eye expression. And in Western tradition, on the contrary, mouth and lips are usually the main source of character emotions. And thus we can see that, for example, in Pixar movies, we have a larger mouth, larger lips, and more expressive. And while in Japanese tradition, in anime, we see more details in the eyes, within the eye pupil, eye design, and eye expression, as and this has some cultural roots because in Japan people are usually not as expressive, and they tend to respect each other's autonomy and each other's personal space. So they usually do not publicly express their emotions such widely as, for example, Americans or Westerners. Or also the expressions on the people in Japan are more calm, more saturated, less saturated. But the eye area is usually less controllable. The muscles of the upper side of the face are usually less controllable, so your emotions would rather move through your eyes, through your eye expressions, through eyelids, eyebrows, and less through your cheeks and mouth and lips. And in Western culture, it is more normal to express your emotions publicly, so you would less control these areas. So the smile or the anger or all these emotions would be way more prominent to the people around you, even in public spaces, or through their mouth. So that's why this different approach to mouth area. But nevertheless, it is a part of the face, and as a part of the face, it's part of character's mood, character's spirit. And we have quite a few methods to make mouth design and to express emotions and characters, mood, characters, integrity, etc. through the shape and through the image of the mouth area, and sometimes on the cheek area as well, because, well, you can do blush, so you can do this kind of extra makeup. And here we have, well, the obvious thing is the sculpted mouth, but on top of the sculpture, top of the mouth sculpture and mask sculpture, we will have some extra layers, and here they are. And of course, the sculpture method will be prominent in most of these variants. Well, not all of these variants, but in most. So let's move on to the to the variant themselves. And the first variant, the go-to variant, the standard variant, the first variant that was used, and the variant that will be used over and over again anyway, is the Sculpted mouse, and it is, and in most of ways it's the easiest design and go-to. And if your character have closed lips, like me for example, you will have to use this method. And many calm expressions, less trace expressions, would use this method. And some techniques of this method, some techniques of sculpting, would even allow you to have a couple different emotions within one face, within one sculpt, with the different perspectives on the mask. There would be very different emotions, and I will discuss this especially in another lecture about different facial expressions and different ways on having several facial expressions in one mask or in one character for one character. So now we just mentioned that you can do several emotions through the one static mouth shape because of the parallax, because of the transition between the three-dimensional shape and the two-dimensional picture of the character. And of course, you are not limited with this method to the simple, closed, calm characters. You also can use this method with characters with slightly open mouths, or even with characters with mouths that open enough. So you can, for example, make some smaller some slits within the mouth, or such that you will be able to feed a straw to drink, for example, or have an extra ventilation through the mouth. And in this situation, you will have to add some extra structures inside. But in this case, these structures will be glued to the inside and permanently bonded to the mask. Also, we should mention that some mouth openings will be larger, and you can even make your see-through through the mouth. For the larger masks, you can make a mouth with a net inside and see through that net, additional to ventilation. And you can add some teeth, some tongue, something like that. For example, this is Nukapan's mask. And they use that element inside of the mask and glue that element inside. This stuff is like that. But again, it's all that stuff is glued inside the mask, and it can be pre-painted and glued inside, or you can assemble the mask shell with all that elements inside, or even sculpt all that elements with the mask shell and just paint it over when the mask is produced, when the mask shell is manufactured. And of course, inside it can be some structures or some elements. So all this stuff, well, it is simply a go-to method. And if you would make your mask, especially your first mask, you probably would use this method because, well, it is the easiest to grasp and easiest to understand. Well, the next variant is the variant of this method, and basically you sculpt the mouth, but the mouth area you sculpt the lips, but you do not make the inner structures, you do not make the elements inside of your mouth. You make just a lips and a hole, and the inner structures are a separate element that can be attached with magnets, with screws, with some velcro from the inside. For example, this is the test model that we made for one of our friends, and this is the test model of animals and the tongue. And the greatest stuff about this is that you can make it as a set, so you can have separate, for example, separate sets of teeth, separate tongues, and you can also make, for example, tongues out of some rubber. For example, this one is made out of TPU, and it was installed in a Fastex-like manner inside this hole in the mouth. And also, so it could be changed, and from the manufacturer point of view, you can make the inner part of the mouth separately and even outsource it. And from the performance point of view, you can change your elements of your facial expressions. For example, you can have, for example, for the king masks, you have a lot of different tones, a lot of different teeth structures, so you can change just a simple teeth or teeth with a spine or something like that. And all that stuff just get inside, and you can put it inside. Well, secure it with some elements or take it out. And also this method can, in some cases, if you use, for example, rubber bands to secure everything inside or a magnet, you can even move this assembly aside without taking the mask off to, for example, take a drink, or, well, as a lot of dollars joke, to feed a hot dog. So it's basically this idea. So this is that idea, but the limitations of this method is that it is almost exclusively limited to open mouth, or to the wide open mouth. So if you have just a simple semi-open smile, this can be not viable. But again, if your smile is open enough, for example, again, in this mask, the size of this slit is just enough to fit a drinking tube, and inside there is something like that. So you can probably can see that I can move the tongue out of the way, so the performer could just take a straw and drink some water without taking the mask off. So this is this kind of idea. The next thing is the sticker mouth. Well, I first encountered this idea when you tested this on the stream, and then I think the sticker mouth, well, for example, you can even make it pretty fast. So a sticker with a mouth or with a teeth that you can, wait, please go away. Static electricity. So let me, oh my god, just fall down. So well, something like that. And you can change your emotions, you can change how you look, how you something like that. So let me take it out. And the biggest idea of this is that when you perform, especially when you perform on camera, you can easily change some elements of expressions of yourself. Well, and by the way, that video of when you first tested that and published online was on Facebook, and it's no longer available, so I don't have a photo of that stuff. But again, you can use the stickers, the vinyl stickers. We discussed that when the vinyl stuff in the section about eyelashes and eyebrows. And the limitations of the vinyl stickers are the same. You cannot use them too frequently, use and reuse them. You just the glue layer you simply wears off with time, but you also can use magnets instead of this. And there is this stuff like a magnetic paper, and you can take the magnetic paper and place the sticker on top of it, or have some metal, some magnetic metal, and place the sticker on top of that, or simply paint it. And in this case, you will have to use some extra magnets behind your lid area, and you will need a pretty strong magnet. So that stuff won't be easily rippable off, but anyway, the magnetic stuff is less reliable in the short term as a sticker, because there will be a pretty large gap between the lips and the magnet inside of the mask. But on the long run, it will be more reliable, because it will still be able to, the same magnetic element will be will be able to use it throughout many iterations and swap it pretty fast, especially on photo sessions and sometimes on video recording. And what I need to note is that this method is working with simple cartoon masks or anime masks, and will not work well with more realistic masks. It may look even weird with doll masks or realistic masks. And it also requires the face to be pretty smooth, pretty flat. And if you have a permanent sculpted mouth, well, this will be not very viable, not very usable. So it's pretty style dependent. Well, now to the next, and the next is mechanical mouth. And mechanical mouths are more popular in the toy community, obviously, and also are pretty used with demo masks. And what does this design actually, how it works? You need to simply split the mask into two sections, the upper section and the lower jaw. And you will have to also make some mechanism that will connect the lower jaw and the upper somewhere under the ears or behind the ears, something like that. Usually in this work of Maxim Rachmanov from Kazakhstan, you can see that the hinge is somewhere behind the ears. Well, sometimes the hinge is lower and the ears move with the upper part of the mask, so it depends on design. Again, and in this case, you will have to sculpt a lot. You will have to sculpt not just the mask surface, but all the inner stuff. And also you will have to add something inside to obscure the performer's head. For example, it may be a head attack with closed mouth, so just the eyes would be open for the performer. So there would be a simple black inside, or something red, or some extra structure that will overlap inside, and thus provide no vision all the way through the mouth. But what it's good for? Well, again, you have for more vivid expressions. You have a mask that can open and close its mouth, and it is a better airflow, obviously. And what about the mechanism again? There is the jaw, and then the lower jaw is pushed, it's protected by the hinge, and it's pushed down with the performer's chin. And in this case, you may need to extra adjust the position of the paddings inside the mask. So whenever the performer moves their jaw down, the mask's jaw also moves down. But to return the jaw up, you will need some rubber bands or springs to move them back into place, and you will have to also provide some elements to secure that. And again, there is a lot more amount of sculpting in the stuff, where don't matter either it's a digital sculpting or analogous sculpting. While in analogous sculpting you will need to be extra careful to overlap all that surfaces, because those surfaces need to work both in open situation and in closed situation. Well, and the next variant is more technological. Again, we move from the simple and traditional to more advanced and technological stuff. And this stuff is electronic. So you can combine that with the open lower jaw, or simply combine it with the mask that is made out of a translucent material, like a translucent plastic, translucent resin, printed with translucent resin, or made with a vacuum forming technique out of a translucent plastic. Or you even can have the technique where you have a mask made of a pretty solid material with a lot of deliberately placed holes, and you can place the fiber optics through that holes, and with fiber optics you can lit up that fiber optics in a certain patterns to again achieve that effect. So and this effect works, and if the previous effect works well with demons and animal looking mask, then this effect works better with the robot characters and robot Musume characters. For example, with Nayuki we can see exactly this idea. Again, it's coupled with screens in the eyes and all other stuff, and some other electronic elements on top of the mask like this. So this stuff is movable with the some servos. So you can see this is a pretty technical, pretty interesting idea. And also you can combine with, you can not just limit it to the mouth area, you can also use it at the cheek area, for example. So you can have some extra dynamic blush on your mask, like that. So this is this idea. But again, as an electronics, you need to program it, you need to keep it dry, because well, electronics doesn't like water, and because it also consumes a lot of power. You will need the batteries, you will need some coolers inside the mask, and again, the LEDs are pretty hot when they are confined in a small amount of space inside the mask. So all that stuff you will need to consider. You will need to consider your active cooling inside the mask. But anyway, since you are using electronics and electric stuff and all that stuff, you just put a couple of extra coolers inside your mask to provide that that anti-overheating. So I try to use different words here, because well, not to sound too repetitive. Well, so this is it, this is this idea. And again, it gives you a pretty dynamic stuff. Well, the next thing is actually pretty widely used by one of my friends, Alisa. And this stuff is not the permanent stuff like previous. This is just an accessory. So you can have your own mask and you can use simple face masks on top of your own mask. And these masks have a lot of different varieties. There are just simple cloth masks or latex masks or something like that are simply cover your face and makes it less expressionless and limits them all the expressions to the eye area. In other situations, you have masks with some different printed emotions. So, like here, you can see that an emotion is printed on top of that mask, and it can pretty dramatically change the expression and playfulness or the mood of your character. And it's absolutely temporary because you just put on your Kigurumi character and then you put on such kind of mask and well become, in this case, a silly kitten. And yeah, this is pretty silly kitten sometimes. So that's it. That's some extra idea. And again, as I said, there would be no comparison of different methods. Well, mostly because then you do not need to compare those methods in a traditional way. It's not like one method is better in one production method and the other is better in a different production method. It's more like one method is more reliable and working better in a certain design circumstances. So it's a design-driven decision, the decision driven by how you are willing to approach your character, how you're willing to portray your character, and what you are willing to express. Because although the methods mentioned above may look very well with one character and one design decision and one artistic styles, for example, with a oversimplified cartoon style or detailed realistic style, and will look pretty weird or even out of the place in other circumstances. So you are choosing your artistic idea and then use one of the methods based on that artistic idea. So no comparison. If you make a robot character and you want your robot character to be expressive, you are pretty confined to the LED-driven and screen-driven work. And if you have a realistic character, you are pretty confined with calm realistic character. You are confined with a well-sculpted mouth. So that's it. Again, thank you for watching this video, and as you can see, this time it's not that long as usually on this channel in this type of content. And also I need to announce that there is just one topic I need to cover in this lecture format, and that topic would be about how to have different facial expressions within one character, the different ways, and there will be smooth emotion transitions, and there will be separate mask shells, and all other stuff that can relate to that, and this will be the last lecture in this lecture format for the Kigurumi mask making related topic. And then there would be I would call it the next season, with a pretty different approach where I would show you different masks that I made, and explain how that mask was made and what decisions was made during the production process, why that decisions was made, what could be made better, and what the results of the decisions. So it will be a walkthrough of the stuff. So I hope that you will continue watching, and again, thank you for being with me today. Bye bye. Where is this button? Okay.